Welcome back to the David Kurten Show on today's News Talk TNT. Now, it is fantastic to have with me in the studio now Lara Hurley, who is a Heritage Party candidate. So I know you, Lara, because you're standing for us in Southend. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. I'm really pleased to be on here today. I've got a lot of information I need to make the public aware of.
Yeah, you do. And you've been. Yeah, you gave a speech at the last Heritage Party conference, and that was on 5G. Now that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. Why are people concerned about 5G, and what's your concerns, and what do you need to say about this?
Well, basically, in my ward 2 years ago, a cell tower was put in near to where I live, and I was really shocked to see it. I didn't know it was getting put in my neighbourhood, so I started to investigate it. And I found out from the council that these towers have been put in with no risk assessments and no real health and safety. So the safety certificates for some of these towers in Southend have got company names on that are not actually registered at Companies House. And the applications for these towers, the company names for those are also not registered at Companies House. So I think this is quite a serious issue, because whether you believe 5G is safe or not, we do not have any real health and safety or risk assessments around this new infrastructure. We have got 18 towers in Southend with these certificates with a company name on that was dissolved in 2015. And these certificates are supposed to ensure public safety. So as I've gone further into investigating this, it's got worse and worse. So that's really my main concern. Obviously, I've written to the council about this. They've written back to me, and I've asked them who is responsible for the liability for any of these towers, especially the one nearest me. And they've replied saying this is not for the council to answer. And I've had that on many of the other questions I've asked them.
That just sounds astonishing. I mean, the first time I saw a 5G tower was 2019, and it was some new, huge thing. I'd never seen it before. It was jarring the first time I saw one. But since then, in the 4 years since then, they've become ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They're all over the place, in every city, in every town, even every village, even in the middle of the countryside. But I've heard this before from various people, but you've explained that a bit more. That these things then have basically got fake safety certificates. I mean, how
Yes.
Surely these safety certificates then are null and void, because if they're given by a company that doesn't exist anymore, it's like being given by Mickey Mouse or something. I mean, it really.
Yeah. So basically, the certificate I have for the South Church Road Tower, nearest to where I live, has a name on it, 3UK Limited, and the company's address. Now, people that I've met over the last 2 years and worked alongside have investigated this, and this company was actually dissolved in October 2015. So I've gone to the council and asked, how can they ensure public safety with a certificate it's a self-certified certificate as well, because I've also found out that ICNIRP, which is the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation, does not actually produce these certificates. The telecommunications companies do them for themselves. So that's another angle to it. And also, this isn't just happening in Southend, this is happening across the UK. And I have dug into other legislation regarding this rollout, where they had loosened up some of the rules and regulations around this to get this implemented quickly, which I'm really disappointed to see, because it's putting at risk, even if you don't believe in non-ionizing radiation being bad, long-term exposure to humans. The one nearest to where I live is right next to a petrol station. and it could blow up. Who's going to be liable for damages? This morning, I've dropped my daughter off at school, and there was a loud explosion, an electrical compound opposite the school. And that isn't even a 5G, mast, which is huge. This is a small compound. So if we've got no public liability or insurance around these towers, even if one of them blows up, who's going to be liable for damages? So basically, the council's telling me they don't have the answers to any of those questions at all.
But do the council
I've asked
give?
I've asked them, how can a non-existing legal entity make any sort of declaration, let alone one about public safety, that isn't registered at Companies House? And they've just answered me, this is not for the council to answer.
Well, I would think it certainly is for the council to answer, isn't it? They're neglecting their responsibility, I would say. Because surely, do the council give permission for these towers to be located in certain places?
Yes, so the planning department does put these through, and the answer I keep getting is that they have followed the national planning guidance from the government and followed all the guidance correctly. So they've put these in, and they think they've covered all the bases. Obviously, they're saying to me it's not in their jurisdiction with regards to these safety certificates or the applicants' names on the towers, but really it should be in their jurisdiction, because they're supposed to be looking after the public in Southend, their friends, their colleagues, their family that are going to live and have to work around these towers. And I'm really disappointed, because I did speak to a local independent councillor recently, and I mentioned to him about what was going on, and he told me that they are aware that these non-ionizing radiation does cause health problems for people. And that really shocked me, because I was really, really upset about that, because I thought, even if you were ignorant to it and you didn't realise and you were just rubber stamping this through, I could understand that. But these people do have an inclination it can cause health problems. And it's just really, really disappointed me that they've allowed this to happen in our town with their friends and relatives and people that have got to live within this environment now.
Absolutely. Look, Lara, stay with us. We're going to come back after this short news break and talk more about this very important topic. This is today's News Talk, TNT. Welcome back to the David Kurten Show here on today's News Talk, TNT. Lara Hurley is still with me, and we were talking about 5G towers and 5G safety. And I was very shocked by what you said just before the break there, that certain councillors have an idea, they have an understanding that 5G towers and the radiation that is emitted from them could possibly be harmful to human health, but yet they're still going ahead and allowing them to be constructed. How on earth can this happen?
I think it's because of the smart city agenda. So Southend is earmarked to become a smart city by 2050. And obviously there's probably a lot of money involved in this. And they're not, they're not looking at the long-term implications to our communities and our society. It all might look good on paper, but it's really, obviously, we really need to look into this kind of thing before it goes any further, because I really don't think it's going to benefit our children and grandchildren long term. I just want to say quickly as well, with the health and safety situation, the ICNIRP Commission, and I did find this out through my journey on this, that they do not cover people with implants, IG pacemakers, safety from 5G towers. So that's another thing. The ICNIRP Commission does not cover that. So that's something our council should have looked into, that, and people living within the vicinity of these masts, whether they do have any implants, because it is very important for the health and safety of the public here. And another thing I'd like to say is, these towers in our area have been put in the most deprived areas first. And I know the wealthier areas, because the people are more aware, they've stopped them being put in the posher, most wealthier areas in where I live.
Wow.
And I just find that really sad too, because we did meet another councillor that actually told us they know that the poorer areas will not contest something like this, so they can get away with doing it. We went and spoke to some people that live near one of the biggest towers in Southend, and the road right opposite, and they told us they put that tower in at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, so it just shows you this is being rolled out with no transparency to the public at all.
Mm. There seems to be no notice and no consultation for when these towers are put in. I mean, you're talking about Southend, but I hear from this around the country. I even see it myself,
Yeah.
you know, outside the local station. One day there was just a huge tower. It was there. It was like some pristine construction. It had just appeared overnight, just like that. And I'm like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
you know, so that's incredibly cynical that they're doing it first in the areas where they know people are less likely to complain. And maybe, you know, they're looking to see what the effects are on those people.
Maybe, yes. We did get wind of one they wanted to put in recently, and me and Bianca campaigned it and stopped it being implemented. And in a nearer to Southend, in South Church, and literally they give you 1 week to contest it. They only sent letters to a very few houses in that area, so people had no idea that this could happen and be put in next to a park and 200 meters from a school. And I just find it appalling that the members of our council and the people in the planning departments are not questioning this and saying, how can I sign this off when it's going to affect my community? I'm really, really quite upset about it, to be honest with you. Also on my journey, I have been working alongside another organisation called AICS, who are really, really want to raise awareness about, you know, the effects of this long term. And the work they're doing is brilliant, because they're just getting information out to the people that the mainstream media will not put out.
Absolutely. Now, AICS, I believe that stands for Adult Child Health and Environmental Support. And yes, looks like a really, really good organization. You're involved in it. And they're campaigning to make awareness of what these things can do. But what are the actual effects and potential effects of this non-ionizing radiation? I mean, to everyone, it should be obvious. I mean, microwaves are non-ionizing radiation. If you stick your hand in a microwave, you're going to get your hand cooked. You know, it depends on the frequency and the intensity of the radiation, but certain frequencies and certain intensities can have a harmful effect on humans. And also, if they can affect humans, well, they're going to affect smaller animals, like including pollinators like bees and insects and so on, even more than they affect humans, let alone bacteria and plants. So obviously, you know, to anyone with a thinking mind, you've got to make sure that whatever radiation you're exposed to is not of a harmful frequency and not of a harmful intensity. But people are being exposed to this, and there are cases. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, there is. Yeah, through this organisation, AICS, who Nicholas Martin and Michael and Amanda Kenton set up, I have met scientists and doctors on Zoom calls that have given evidence that this is actually harming people. And there's been studies done now. Obviously, I'm not a scientist, but this is what I've observed and I've listened to. And what's not been taken into consideration from what I've gathered from these people speaking out is the long-term effects of low emission radiation, because that's what builds up in our system. It's not so much, it doesn't heat you up like ionizing radiation. Non-ionizing doesn't heat you up, but it's the long-term exposure that can affect us physically. And there's professors and doctors calling for health and safety around this apparatus. So then I go back to these certificates, which have company names on that are dodgy, that don't exist, and the applications for these towers, the names on those don't exist at Companies House.
Wow.
So then you start to wonder why. Why are they not putting the correct company names on? Because if this infrastructure is so safe, then why have we got these dodgy certificates all across the country?
Yeah, you would think that if there will be no problem, there will be no need to deceive anybody if they were actually safe. And by not having real names of real companies, then nobody's actually liable. It seems to me that this is what's
Exactly.
going on. So somebody somewhere
Exactly.
must know that these
Yeah.
things
But
are
I'm
dangerous.
now, yeah, I'm now going to be writing to the Levelling Up section of the government. I can't remember the full name of it. I've just been given the name by the council to contact them because apparently this infrastructure has been rolled out from that central point. So it's the correspondence at levellingup.gov.uk I'll be
Mm.
writing to next to find out why they've allowed this to happen and haven't looked at the health and safety around this before the rollout.
Yeah, with the whole leveling up agenda is a huge thing, and it's portrayed in a way to again play smoke and mirrors and deceive people as to actually what it is. And you know, Madeline, another person from the Heritage Party, explained
Yeah,
this very well. What leveling up is, it's not actually making every council more prosperous. It's actually going through some predetermined stages of changing governance and implementing the fourth industrial revolution and wokery and digital control systems in
yeah,
every area through local councils. So obviously, smart cities, low traffic neighborhoods, 15-minute cities, 5G control grids are all part of the same agenda. They all
exactly.
fit together and work together. So this clearly is what they want, and this is part of leveling up. It's not giving you more youth centers and more libraries and looking
Mm.
after our parks. It's giving you more 5G towers and more surveillance. That's what it is. And
Exactly. And I'll be honest, David, Southend at the moment, they've spent no money on the roads or the rubbish clearance. It's been left to rack and ruin, but they've got enough money to put 5G towers everywhere and surveil everybody. And then if there is a crime committed, 9 times out of 10, nothing will be done about it. So you know, they're not putting this infrastructure in for the good of the people.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you're standing in the local elections, which are only a couple of weeks away now. They're on
Yeah,
the 2nd of May. You're standing for a ward in Southend. You mentioned Bianca, obviously she's standing as well. And we
yeah,
have, you're one of 7 candidates standing in Southend, which is so fantastic. You've done a really great job. You team together there, putting forward, the case that the Heritage Party has got for our local
yeah.
policies, and this is one of them. How are things going for you in your campaign
It's
and raising awareness there?
Yeah, it's going really well. To be honest, I'm so busy. I mean, we are fitting in leaflet dropping in and canvassing around my full-time job and everything. But the
Mm.
reason why I've stood is really because I'm so sick and tired of seeing the injustice in the world. And then the people around me, oh, well, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. And I've decided there's no point keep saying that. People need to stand up. We all need to make the effort to start change. It can't happen with one person. Everybody has to realize that the people need to get together and put pressure on these institutions to make sure they're doing the things for the good of the people. And I think that's why I've ended up standing, because I just can't just watch it keep going on and on. I'm nearly 50. And what am I going to leave to my children if I don't do anything about it? Leave them on a planet where we're going to be in 5G, the Matrix,
Mm.
and social credit system, which I definitely do not want to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I would echo that message as well. That's very, very well said, because a lot of people they know there's something wrong. They can see it, and it's far more open
Yeah.
now. 4 or 5 years ago, it was just a general feeling, and everyone was concerned about political correctness. But now we've had 4 years of insanity where people have imposed lockdowns on us. They've stopped us from going to the shop, they've stopped us from traveling. Now they're stoking up war all over the place, and they're implementing 15-minute cities and neighborhoods. You can see this.
Mm.
Oxford, obviously, is a really good example. What you're
Yeah.
saying in Southend is the plan to make it a smart city by 2050, and people don't, they can understand there's something wrong with this, but it's still portrayed and promoted to us in terms of being something positive. Oh, the city's going to be smart. That sounds good. They don't realize smart
Yeah.
stands for surveillance, monitoring, analysis. What's the R? I forget the R. Technology, recording
I
technology. So
remember.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's not good, and so people need to get involved in the political process. And I really, really
Yes.
appreciate you that you have done that.
Yeah,
And
thanks, David. Well, I couldn't sit around any longer after what happened in 2020 and
mm,
just watch this all happening and not stand up and say, hang on a minute, something is wrong. Like
mm,
we're living in these, we're getting top down, telling us what we can and can't do. And our communities are being destroyed at the moment. I think so. In the areas we live, I just see deprivation. I don't see things
mm,
improving. I see things getting worse. But we've got all this money for all this technology and not enough for the basics, which is
yeah.
ridiculous. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. It certainly is. The government is hypothecating money for technology and for
Yeah,
climate nonsense, but then there's less money for fixing potholes, and there's less money for youth clubs, and there's less money for parks, less money for libraries, but all this money for 5G surveillance towers, and it's absolutely wrong. Anyway, look, Lara, I wish you the very, very best in your election
thanks,
coming up
David.
in a couple of weeks' time. I hope you get in, and obviously Heritage Party policy is to have a complete moratorium on 5G towers until it is proven that it is safe, completely safe for humans, animals, pollinators, bees, plants, everything. We can't have this technology going everywhere if it is not
Yeah.
shown to be safe for all animals, all species, and it's not going to cause immense damage, both in the short term and the long term. Lara, thank you so much for joining
Thank
me,
you so
and
much.
great to see you.